Shalom everybody, hope you're well. Today's video is going to be about repression and repressing emotions, trapped emotions. I want to cover this a bit more because I feel like this is something that in the faith isn't really covered, especially in deliverance. So the title of this video is Repression, whatever you resist persists. So we repress emotions, and when we repress emotions and traumas, we resist feeling them, and when we resist feeling them, we persist in coming away from our healing. So acceptance is a big part of healing, and when we choose to not feel repressed emotions and angers, resentments, bitterness, rejection, all these emotions that we've gone through, we're actually further creating a doorway for demons to sort of work through by not feeling our emotions. And this is something that's not really covered in deliverance ministry, so I wanted to cover it. So I want to go into the meaning of repression first to start off. So repression is the action of subduing someone or something by force. The students sparked off events that ended in brutal repression, or the restraint, prevention or inhibition of a feeling or quality. The restraint, prevention or inhibition of a feeling or quality. And then it's got the repression of anger can be positively harmful. And then we've got the action or process of suppressing a thought or a desire in oneself so that it remains unconscious. And then it's got children and adults pay a heavy price for their deep repression of thoughts about death. Amen. I'm going to go into the definition of depression. The definition of depression is feelings of severe despondency and dejection. Self-doubt creeps in, and that swiftly turns to depression. Second definition, a long and severe recession in an economy or market, the depression in the housing market, feelings of severe despondency and dejection. And then I've put also oppression. Oppression is prolonged, cruel or unjust treatment or exercise of authority, a region shattered by oppression and killing. And then it says the state of being subjected to oppressive treatment, a response to collective poverty and oppression. And then it's got mental pressure or distress. Beatrice's mood had initially been alarm and a sense of oppression. And then I've put the other word I wanted to go into is just demonic, relating to or characteristic of demons or evil spirits, demonic possession or demonic oppression. So when you study words, you can understand the meaning of terms as well, and you can also find the truth. If you know the true definition of a word, and you hear people speak those words, their language, you can understand the truth. And so when people speak, the Bible states out of their heart they speak the truth. Out of their heart comes the truth. Out of their heart, out of their lips comes the truth of the heart. So when you're repressing, so everyone's guilty of repression. So like I said, the action or process of suppressing a thought or desire in oneself so that it remains unconscious. So when we repress emotions and traumas, we choose to not feel them. A lot of the time it happened in childhood and was actually a technique to deal with the pain, because traumatic things, rejection, loss of a job, grief, resentment, bitterness, abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, all of these create a trauma. And at the time of that trauma as a child, we probably found it difficult to basically comprehend the emotions and feelings. It was so painful, because emotional pain is painful, it's traumatic, and there's no real disparity between someone who's been emotionally abused and someone who's been verbally abused or physically abused or sexually abused. Someone can go through a level of emotional abuse throughout their life, and then there could be someone who's been through one occasion of sexual abuse. Now there's no disparity between how that affects each person. Obviously on the surface you're going to say that the sexual abuse is worse than emotional abuse, but the wounds of emotional abuse are just as bad as sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. So when we've been rejected or neglected or treated poorly or unjustly or unfairly, or someone's betrayed us, or we've felt grief growing up, we've repressed those emotions. So the reason why I wanted to cover this today is because I feel like the repressing of emotions becomes a doorway for demonic forces to then work through, because basically every relationship, friendship, business partnership, acquaintance, every person that we're in communication with, when we communicate with people, that you're either making agreements with them or disagreements with them. And when you make an agreement with someone, you're making a bond or a tie with someone through certain things. And people make agreements to hold on to things and harbour things, and it's often done out as unconsciously as a defence mechanism that was learned through childhood, because a lot of the time, especially in British culture, in UK culture, British culture, you're taught to just, you know, buckle up, take the emotions, get on with it, don't talk about your emotions. A very UK and Britain is a very unemotionally expressive place. I think that's probably why we have so much great art and music, because people in UK are so hurt and there's so much trauma that they have to express it in other ways. And art is definitely a very cathartic, you know, music, writing, poetry, art is a way of expressing these emotions that you've repressed within yourself. So the reason why I wanted to cover this is because there seems to be a similarity as well between repression, depression and demonic oppression, and I want to clarify it. So demonic oppression is a heaviness and a weight of, you will feel the feelings of despondency, of depression can come on upon you from demonic oppression, but also you can have depression, and they're two different things, but they have the similar characteristics. And there's a lot of people who say in deliverance ministry, for example, that depression is a demon, or rejection is a demon, and this seems to be a common thing in deliverance ministry, that people blame everything on demons. Oh, that's a demon, this is a demon, anger's a demon, rage is a demon. I'm not saying that there aren't anger demons, depressed demons and anxiety demons, fear demons, but they need a doorway or an opening or a legal agreement to be able to be allowed in. And the legal agreement is the legal agreement. So Satan's constantly trying to create doorways and pathways into your spirit, legal agreements, and a agreement that you can make legally with the devil to bind you, to have these spirits then come in, is your own pride. So pride comes before ruin, and the Bible also states that he that exalts himself will fall. He that humbles himself will be exalted, and the Bible states God gives grace to the humble. So in your own pride, you can actually, from trauma and then refusing to feel those emotions and bring them up and accept the traumas that you've been through by feeling them, because that's the thing is, it's easier said than done, this process. But what I'm trying to say is that when you harbour trauma that people have done to you, you repress it and you put it at the back of your back, or you store it in your body. You see it when people get older, they get back pain, neck pain, knee pain. This is all trapped emotions, traumas, repression that they've kept, repressed emotions. So there's a process on my online course that you can do to release these repressed emotions, and I'm praying through this myself and seeing myself through a lot of healing as well. But I know that much of my own depression is coming on from an excess of unjust treatment and oppression and repressed feelings and emotions that I've had within myself. The other important thing is Titus 3:10 states, warn a divisive person once, twice, then after that have nothing more to do with them. So it is actually your responsibility to, many people grew up in life without boundaries. They grew up in a narcissistic household, or CPTSD or PTSD engendering household, so they never had boundaries, and they didn't know what boundaries were, which was like telling people, no, if you do this, I'm not speaking to you, and if you don't appreciate me and you don't treat me this way, then we're not going to go do this, we're not doing this together, this is my boundary, this is you have to appreciate and respect. So many people grew up without them. So I'm in the age now in my 30s learning about boundaries now and learning safe boundaries, and I can see where I went wrong, and that's where so much trauma came from without not being allowed to have boundaries, not being allowed to say no to parents and caregivers. And so boundaries are important, and then also it's important to, as Titus 3:10 states, warn a divisive person once, twice, then after that have nothing more to do with them. It's important for you to stick to your boundaries and learn that when you're dealing with a toxic person, a narcissistic person, you need to walk away. The Bible clearly states that you shouldn't be speaking to people who are toxic. So demonic oppression is demons working through people to oppress someone, to cause depression, and the depression that is caused is from the repression that is caused from the demonic oppression or the unjust treatment. So when people are operating in disobedience to God and treating people unfairly, manipulation is a form of witchcraft. What they're basically effectively doing is, often it is done maliciously with narcissistic people, but there are people who are just toxic, not quite narcissistic, and they do it because it's easier to swerve responsibility and accountability for saying or doing things that affect your boundary, and people don't want to feel emotions. So a lot of the time that people operating in this dimension are just operating off repression. They're repressing their feelings. So when they do something wrong, you pull them up about it, they want to repress the feelings, they don't want to deal with the feelings. And this is why we see such a massive issue worldwide, and an increase in depression and anxiety and all of this. So depression and anxiety and all of this is a big build-up of trapped traumas and emotions that people have choose to not feel. Obviously people have been through stuff. There's no person on earth who doesn't suffer with mental health issues or mental health problems. I don't really like the term problems. Maybe mental health issues is better, but it's like they've been through trauma, so they've got a lot of repressed emotions that they have to deal with, and people aren't healing, and they're not feeling these things, and they're also not cutting off the toxic people who are creating the tie. You can't heal and get better in the place where you first originally got sick. So it may be a case of cutting off narcissistic parents, narcissistic friends. You shouldn't really be around people like that. You should really be around people you can truly fellowship with and pray with and fast with and read the word with and get true healing and deliverance with. And so yeah, I wanted to clear this up. I wanted to talk about depression and repression and how they all sort of tie in, demonic oppression, and they share similarities. So, but the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because in deliverance, there's not many people talking about the fact that you can create a problem for yourself. I'm not saying that you're meant to be abused. I'm not saying that you're meant to go through trauma. What I'm saying is, it's your job to then bring those repressed emotions up and release them. And you may be in a stage or a season of your life where some things that have happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they were so traumatic, you can't really just bring it up right now and get rid of it. Like healing and releasing repressed emotions is like peeling off layers of an onion. It's an ongoing process that you've got to go through. But the hope is that once you've done it, you build it. You're going to learn about building boundaries and having the right people around you who love you for you and treat you the right way. Don't be around worldly people. The problem with worldly people is they're not healed. Worldly people need to be healed and delivered, and many of them are not on that path. They don't want to go on that path. It's easy to just pretend that do this and break through your boundaries and do what they want and get away with it and think they can get away with it. And the problem with being of the faith, being Christian, is people can take your kindness as a weakness and use it to their own advantage. But if you have boundaries, strong boundaries, you say to people, if you do that again, I'm not speaking to you. If you keep doing that, I'm not speaking to you. and then you have to stick to your guns. And what will happen is you'll start cleansing your life of all these crap people, and you may even go through a season of being isolated and alone with God. But the thing is, God will then lift you, elevate you, and remember, God gives grace to the humble and resists the proud. So don't be prideful in your own way of not wanting to heal yourself and accept things. And that's why the Bible states, forgive, if you forgive others, I will forgive you. So it's important you forgive others, but not for them, it's for yourself. Because I've lived my life with a lot of resentment, bitterness, anger for the rejection, neglect parents put me through, and other people in my life have traumatized me through, betrayals and all sorts of other things. But I'm at a stage now in my walk with Christ where I'm learning to just be like, look, these people are hurt, and anyone who's not truly got the Holy Spirit and been healed and delivered by Christ and walking with Christ is broken. I don't care what anyone says. And as the years go on, it gets more and more. That's why a lot of the time you can get caught in a rut thinking about when your younger years, and when you're 17, 18, 20, and you hadn't been through as much life trauma, So I urge you to start bringing up emotions, getting on I do this on a fast, and when I'm fasting and I'm praying in Holy Spirit, bring up traumas and emotions that you haven't dealt with, and just speak to them and say, it's okay to feel this, even though this happened, I'm safe now, I release this and I let this go. I'm now setting intention to release this and let this go, and feel it's going to feel uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more you're going to start getting healed and quelled down the dark emotions within yourself. And then what happens is you're less likely to get triggered by things that people say or do, because what they're doing is they're basically poking a wound that's got a whole load of other wounds around it. And when you make the agreement with yourself to remain angry about your righteous anger is allowed, but don't stay angry. Some things, as I said, are going to take a few years for you to process the grieving process of trauma before you can release it. So you're not going to be able to not be angry about something straight away. You're going to be angry if something's just happened, you've been betrayed or something, you're still going to be angry about it. So you might take 3 years, but work on the smaller traumas, just rejection that happened in childhood. You'll remember, and what happened is you'll start peeling off the layers of the onions, and you'll start seeing how traumatized you are, and like your back will start to loosen up, your knees will start to loosen up. You have to bring them up, feel them, and release them. If you want more advice on this and want to go through my course, you can check it on the link down below. I'll leave a link for that down below. And also there's just prayers on my channel. But the reason why I wanted to cover this is because I know that a lot of people speak about deliverance and demons, and they blame everything on demons, and they say, well, that's a demon, or we'll do deliverance. And it's like, you're only, remember, we're 3 parts: mind, body and soul. So you have to work. So the mind is affected by your body and your soul. All of it's affected. So soul's like the spiritual, mind's the mental, and the body's the physical. And then we've got the emotions as well, which tie into the body and mind. Your body is a physical representation of the emotions you have trapped within yourself. So you see it as people get older, their back goes out. I just said this, I said legs go out, and the more repressed emotions you carry and harbour within your vessel, the more it starts to wreak havoc on everything else. And make this pact with yourself to not resent others, to not be bitter for you, because the longer you keep a resentment and a grudge with someone else, and choose to not forgive them and release it and accept the emotions that they put you through. Repressing the emotions is not good. The longer you repress it, the longer the devil has a hold or a legal right, because and that's how he gets in. Everyone who hurts someone else is passing the hurt on. The saying goes, hurt people hurt people, hurt people hurt people. It's just, and that's what it is, and it's just going, and they're moving that on. Children, when they're born, they're pure. They're not. They share, they laugh, they love, they enjoy, they're grateful, they dance, they sing. They're pure. and it's only through the trauma that we give children that brings the open doorway for demons to then come in, and then that's when people become rude boy, bad boy, gangster, all that sort of, because they're all traumatized people. Anyone who gets into the life of crime and this, you know, that was my life prior to Christ, you know, drink, drugs, sex, crime, and this come from trauma. So I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, and so I know this. So yeah, if you want to jump on the course, I'll drop a link for that down below, and if not, I'll catch you in another video soon. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and a thumbs up, and I'll see you in another video soon. You are blessed. Peace, love, unity, faith, hope and charity. Rah!